Today, we're going to talk about career success and promotability. In other words, everything you need to know on how to have a successful career and how to be promotable, in essence. And for us to do that today, I have an expert guest with me, Jeni. Jeni, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me, Sue. I'm Jeni Harnden-Koehler. I'm the president and founder of the Talent Acceleration Group, which is an executive coaching and talent consulting organization. And I have about 25 plus years in HR and leadership and talent consulting roles. And I am happy to share some thoughts and insights today.
Perfect. I'm so happy to have you because I also know that you've been part of those conversations with organization leaders on who to promote and what they would like to see more of and all of that. So you got all the insights as well as expertise and vast experience. So I'm excited to talk to you today. Um, of course, I have some questions prepared because I want to make sure that our listeners get everything they need on how to be successful in terms of career. So let's start with the first question. Is is someone's skills, knowledge, experience, expertise, education, is that all that's necessary to be successful?
Well, what I'll say, Sue, is of course, those are important elements, particularly upon applying for a job and getting a job, right? Folks want to know, the hiring manager, the talent acquisition, HR folks, they want to know that you've been there and done that. They want to know you've got capabilities, you've got skills, you're going to be able to come in, you've got a background that's going to help you hit the ground running. But in terms of longer term career success, it's also a few other things that I'd suggest folks keep in mind. And there's three things that come to mind for me. One is relationships, one is a continuous learning mindset, and one is enterprise thinking. So, to give you a smidge what I mean by that, relationships are, yes, it's important what you know, but it's also important that you take the time to develop real, meaningful, and authentic relationships with the people that you work with your manager, your direct reports, your peers, the folks that you interact with in the organization. That's critically important that they know you and you know them beyond just what you can do. What you can do is great, but that you've got that connection. Continuous learning mindset, Sue, I see that so important in terms of when people are looking for who is going to be ready for that next role. It's the folks who are eager and excited to learn something new. They're happy to expand beyond their area and learn a little bit more about what's going on. And this is where it gets to the enterprise mindset. They want to learn what's going on beyond their particular role, their particular job. They want to know what's going on upstream, downstream, or in different, functions in the organization, and to understand how the entire piece fits together, because that's going to help them be more valuable as a contributor. And that's going to help their organization see opportunities that they could put them in beyond their current.
Got it. So someone's education, skills, knowledge, experience, um, of course you need those. That is relevant to the job, that's relevant to your career, your industry, etc. But what we're really here to talk about is those other things that sets you apart in addition to those qualifications. So let's dive into those. What are some misconceptions that people have about career success? A lot of people assume career success means sort of promotion after promotion after promotion or job title or money or things like that. Tell us more. What are some common misconceptions about career success?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you really hit the nail on the head when you're talking about like moving up, right? People often think about their career and career progression as a ladder. People even use the term the career ladder. Hey, we need to create a career ladder over here. And they really think that the next job needs to be a level up from where they're at. That's not necessarily how it works or should work. Or, in fact, you can do that and then find yourself on a tiny little platform up here because you've developed some specialized knowledge and you can't go any further up because you don't have a breadth of knowledge. So when I'm chatting with folks, I like to encourage people to think about a career lattice, not a career ladder. right? So you think of a lattice that, your flowers grow up on, on your house. And sometimes you're going up, but sometimes you're going over, and you may go over one box and you may go over two boxes and then you may go up again, right? So in different organizations, for you to really have a flourishing career path, you need to have the opportunity to expand your knowledge, to expand your purview to a different function, to a different region, to a different part of the company, different part of the business, maybe. And that is going to help you have that depth of knowledge and experience and skills and talent that's going to help you get to the next opportunity. I'll also say two more quick things. One is that there's an opportunity for some people to be a subject matter expert. So if there's a particular area they do love, that's great too. Be clear about that. Be clear with yourself, be clear with your manager and your HR partner and say, hey, I'm excited to be the subject matter here. So tell me, in this organization, how does that turn into a wonderful career path for me? What is my SME career path? And an organization should be able to respond to you about that.
Mm. Me being subject matter expert?
Yeah, sorry, industry terminology. Yeah, as subject matter expert. So, a particular area that you've gotten really good at and you're excited to be really good at, and the organization likes to have someone like you to go to consult with about that topic. And sometimes then you have an opportunity to lead projects or programs or just be sort of the consultant on various different projects about that area that you're the subject matter expert.
Got it. Got it. I want to kind of dig a little deeper into that because there's an assumption that if you are a subject matter expert at something, if you're really good at something, then naturally next progression is to manage people. And I'm here to kind of make the case that maybe the next step isn't to manage people, or maybe you don't even want to manage people. Can you talk a little bit about, um, you know, the natural career progression may not be about managing people?
Yeah, it often isn't, and for most people, it isn't. If you think about an organizational pyramid in terms of numbers of roles, there are fewer roles at more senior levels, and frankly, like I would advise people to just look at their own things, their own values, their own areas of excitement. Like what gets you up and interested in the morning? If you're not passionate about leading a team, developing people, creating a strategy, getting folks inspired about a new direction, if that's not something you're super passionate about and you're passionate more about a technology, particular area of expertise, that's great. We need people of all different areas of interest and passion in an organization, and you absolutely can have a robust career being on that subject matter expert pathway.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, this sort of, I think it's very outdated to assume the only way to have a successful career is to manage people. That's one path, but it's not the only path.
Absolutely.
Um, so tell me more about, you talked about building relationships. Um, Tell me more about that. How do you build relationships? What kind of relationships? Should you only stick with people within the organization? Should you also build relationships with people sort of outside the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, folks often hear about and talk about the need for networks. We understand the need for networks, but one of the things that I think folks sometimes don't realize is one is by the time you need a network, it's too late to have created one. Right? So if you're like, "Okay, I'm ready for my next role. Time to go out and, buzz my network and see if there's not that network built, that's, there's been work that you've been missing perhaps along the way." And also there's some individuals who approach network building like building a network, almost like it's like an artificial like node, creator, and there's not really depth there. So what I like to chat with people about is really building a network of relationships, a network, a community, right? A number of people who know who you are authentically. What kind of environments excite you? What kind of values do you bring to the table, as well as those skills and abilities, right? As well as those, subject matter expertise areas, et cetera. So I'd encourage people to just take time across the board And anywhere and everywhere you are, if you're in your neighborhood, out at the pool for the day, if you are at your church, if you are, at a conference, take those opportunities to just connect with like-minded individuals. Reach out, share some information, get to know them, connect on LinkedIn, set up a coffee chat or a virtual conversation, and just keep building that network of relationships, because what happens is you might get a call for something, a job or what have you, and be like, well, that's actually not really my next opportunity, or it's not my time to move, but I know some people, and then you're able to connect those folks. And that, I just swear, it's just like putting karma out into the world, Sue. It's like putting this like networking karma out there. And the more you're able to do that and make those connections, the more those networks build, and then opportunities come to you as well.
Mm, great advice. I want to also kind of dig a little deeper into that as well, because we all know that networking is critical for career success and promotability. But some people don't feel like they're very good at networking, or their personality isn't there, or they don't have much experience in networking, or they've had bad networking experiences, or they feel like I just don't have that kind of people skills to network, or you're introverted, or just your social skills isn't quite where you would like it to be. So what are some like actual steps you can do to network or build relationships internally? And what are some like concrete steps you can do to build relationships outside your organization?
Yeah, absolutely, Sue. I mean, I'm a flaming extrovert, as you well know. And even if I go to a group event where I don't really know people, it can feel daunting. I think it's just us as mammals, we're like, oh, this is not my herd. I'm not feeling involved and connected here. And I think it's about identifying what works best for you for networking and connections. For some people, it works best to connect on a topic or an interest, a hobby, or what have you, that works for them. So, for example, inside an organization, some organizations will have a company softball team. Some organizations will have a culture committee, that celebrate Diwali and other cultural holidays, and they want to bring that together and bring people together. So they join a committee like that. They get to know the people that are on that committee, and then they're a host
Hmm.
at that kind of an event. And there's something about being a host that helps you feel like, well, I belong because this is kind of my event. So my job is to help make those connections for other people. And then for some people, they like more virtual connections. They appreciate being able to be like, you know what? I'm happy to just have that quick connect. Funnily enough, there is in fact a platform. I'm going to forget the name of it right now, but there is actually a platform that some companies use that folks can sign up for, that are called Virtual Coffee Connects. You literally put your hat in the queue and say, "Yep, I'd like to do this." Once every week or two, you're just connected with someone else in the organization that's also looking to build networks and relationships, and they set you up with a Teams meeting, and off you go. And the same advice I think for externally. So one is join associations or groups of people for areas of interest that you have, either professional areas of interest or hobby areas of interest, a running group, a cycling group, or what have you. Um, and join when you do a professional association, they often have conferences, they'll often have dinners, or other events that you have a chance to go and meet people, as well as learn together. And that's a wonderful way to build
Mm.
connections and relationships, is by learning together.
I like all of those tips. I like all of them. Um, a few others I could think of is if you internally within, your workplace, if you go to meetings and there's someone, virtual meeting or in-person meeting that you don't know very well, kind of reaching out and say, would love to meet with you for 15 minutes and learn more about what you do, your career, things like that. I saw you at that project meeting, would love to get to know you better. Same thing with LinkedIn. If you see a post that you really like, you could send them a message and say, I noticed that you posted this on LinkedIn. It really resonated with me. Would love to know a little bit more about the company that you work at, and things like that. So in other words, find something that's of interest to connect
Right.
with. Um, feel free to reach out and say, I just saw you at this thing, this meeting, this event. Would love to get to know you more. Those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and more often than not, folks are interested in also connecting. That's
Yeah.
we are social
Good for
beings
them too, right?
as people, that's good for them too. You
Yeah,
never know where you're gonna make, the next good friend or the next, person who, who can help you out or who you can help out. And folks do like to make that connection. It makes the world feel like a smaller, cozier place.
absolutely, absolutely. One of my other favorite tactics is I know I have an acquaintance who's very, very introverted. And one of the things is, I notice she always likes to go to events that I also go to. And she'll say, Sue, I struggle. Can you, be the one who introduces me at this event? Can you be the one who sort of pulls me in to conversations? And then I go to another event and I'm like, I don't know anyone here. Can you be the one who introduces me? So kind of planning ahead of time and saying, can you be the introverted today? And you're the one who introduces me to people, and then at another meeting, kind of reverse roles, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the buddy system, like we learned in school, right? The buddy system, like have your friend, have your buddy who's going to be, your safe person, your contact person. And if they know a few people, that's great. The other thing about even being the buddy who is going to be doing the introducing, it also gives them a little bit of extra I don't know, like an extra role or an extra boost of confidence to be able to be like, oh yeah, that's the role I want to play here. Is I really want to help make sure Sue gets to meet some new people and has fun at this event. So I'm going to take that on and look for some people, to introduce her to and make that connection.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, very rarely do I meet someone who says, "I love networking." So, for the most part, all of us need a little extra help, little support, or a little extra role, to play at different,
Yeah, yeah.
events
We,
and
we love having a network. The building of the network can feel effortful at times.
100%, 100%. So you also mentioned that some of another thing that may be useful is to always have I think you call it a continuous learning mindset. Say more about that.
Yeah, a continuous learning mindset is just an appetite
Mm,
for just learning more about whatever it is that you are passionate about. Ideally, there's some aspect of your role that excites you. It could be the area or the function that you're in. It could be, for example, how is digital going to impact this role of mine in the future? That's a big question for, a lot of us these days, right? And how can I be on the forefront of that? How can I maybe listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video or attend a conference on something in that area that's going to expand my knowledge of this area? Maybe make me think a little bit differently and maybe have an idea or two to bring back into my job to raise to my manager to share at a team meeting and just say, "Hey, I was reading about this or thinking about this. Is this something that we might be exploring for ourselves and our team in the next year or so?"
absolutely. Every little bit of additional information you acquire absolutely helps. If you like watching videos, watch videos. If you like to read, read. If you like to talk to people about it, talk to someone about it. So constantly be learning. And I know this sounds, maybe it's obvious, but why is continuous learning helpful for your career and promotability?
Yeah, it's like you said, it might seem obvious in that, that's what's going to get you to the next level because people want to see that you can learn things quickly, that you're not just doing the same thing over and over. You might have an area that's you're a subject matter expert, great. Well, how is that area going to evolve over time? How does that expand? How does it interact with this part of the business or that part of the business, right? So people want to see that you have that adaptability. They want to see that you have that learning agility, that you're able to rise to new challenges. And frankly, in this day and age, it's not really. I mean, how many roles are the same? Even if you're in the same job, is your job really the same as it was a year ago? Even if you're in the same job,
Mm,
things in this day and age, the business changes. They call it the VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, chaotic. I forget what the A is now, but it basically changeable. It's things are changing all the time, and you've gotta demonstrate that you have the agility to change with it.
Frankly, to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Um,
stay.
hmm, if I remember correctly, the third thing that you also shared, in addition to building relationships, building networks, the second one was always be continuously learning, have that mindset. And the third thing, I think you talked about sort of being able to look at things enterprise wide. Say more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I see that can get people stuck in a little bit of a rut is being a little bit too laser focused, a little bit too with blinders on
Mm,
terms of their area of the business, right? In terms of the job that they have, the function that they're in, the business unit, the region, what have you. It's understandable. That's where we work. That's what's around us on every single, on every single day. But in order to be more promotable, in order to think about those next career opportunities, it really does involve kind of taking those blinders off and looking around and saying, okay, well, what's upstream or downstream from my function? Like, who handles this piece of work before I do? Where did this idea come from? How do things originate here before they get to my desk? And then where do they go from here? Right. So having that understanding of the flow of the work, and then how that goes on a macro level. So as you look broader across the organization, how does your function fit within the business unit? How does your business unit fit within the broader enterprise? And what are those broader enterprise wide opportunities and threats? The concerns that exist out there. And from your role and from your perspective, are there any areas that you can provide benefit?
mm. I think that is very important because not only is that useful for you to sort of have a bigger picture and understand things and be relevant, but it seems to me it's also very useful for when you have ideas. Because a lot of people say, I keep sharing ideas, but they're not going anywhere. Imagine how powerful it would be if you share your idea and talk about the impact of that upstream, downstream, org wide, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And also, and it's funny thing, it goes also back to this networking and relationship piece too, which is you can build those relationships with the people upstream and downstream. That's then going to inform that idea that you had. And maybe before bringing it up the ladder to your organizational leader, you might be like, okay, well, let me explore this from a couple of different angles and get some different views on this to see if I'm seeing the problem the same way as other people are seeing it. And then ideally, I'll come up with an even better solution or idea, or maybe have even a person or two who are with me on it. And we're going to come together with this idea and say, hey, this is something that we think we can do that's going to help bring the organization some value. Those are fantastic ways. I will tell you, absolutely, those instances come up at talent review and year end performance discussions when folks are looking at, allocating rewards and looking for people who are ready for their next opportunity.
So you've been in those rooms and they talk about who should we promote, who should get the next role, who are the ones we want to invest in, who should we hire, all of that kind of thing. What are some things that you hear behind closed doors that leaders say that they would like to see in people that they may want to promote? What are those things that they talk about? Is it, you know, personality? Is it skills? Is it network? Just share some more about what you hear behind closed doors that people say they wanna see.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of those things, and what we were talking about in terms of like, hey, have they had this experience,
Yeah.
right? Have they had a chance to be exposed to this area or that before? Have I seen the learning agility? Can we put this person into an area that's a little different from where they've been? And see them rise to the challenge here, right? There's also a factor, and this is one people might call it personality, but I really think of it as your personal brand. Um, and it reminds me of Maya Angelou used to say, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, right? So there's an element that's the intangible aspect of how do people feel about working with you? Do they enjoy working with you? Are you someone that they would, go out and have lunch with because they enjoy that relationship with you? Or are you someone who you drive and you get things done, but there may be like bleeding and broken people in your wake because you're driving really hard and really fast and maybe not taking people along with you. So there is this element that becomes pertinent to career success related to your own personal brand, which is a combination of experience, knowledge, ability to get things done, but it's also this, indefinable factor of what it's like to work with you.
In a way, it's kind of like your reputation. Yeah. So how do you know what your workplace brand is? How do you find out what your reputation is out there?
Yeah. So there are a couple of different ways. The most sort of simple but challenging one at the same time is to ask. So one of the things that I've done with my folks that I work with is suggest that they have a couple of people and they have a conversation with them around, like, I would say, like, "Hey, Sue, I so value our partnership. And your collaboration is so important with you. I'd love to just have a discussion about, like, where do you see me adding value in our work together, and what could I do differently? Are there things that I could do more of or less of, or stop doing altogether, that would improve our partnership and our collaboration? I'd really love to get that information from you so I can continue to improve that collaborative relationship with you." And folks have found that, particularly when it's framed that way, where it's I call it a feed forward method. It's sort of like how we get better moving forward. um, People are more likely to share with you, like, "Hey, Jenny, that's great. And, I see you doing this and this and this, which is really helpful.
Mhm,
And maybe it would also be helpful if before you make this presentation to so and so, you and I talk about that first and we
mhm,
align up things." And then you get that little hint, like, "Oh, I might have a little bit of a brand piece that I run off a
mm,
little bit and leave people behind," right?
mm,
So that's one way to do it. Another way, in some organizations, they have 360 feedback tools, right? So a 360 feedback tool is a survey, and you indicate the people that it goes to, usually your manager, maybe a skip level manager, your peers, and if you lead any team members, they would fill it out as well. And they provide you feedback, usually on certain leadership or behaviors that the organization values. And that's also a really helpful way to get a sense for what your brand is in the organization.
absolutely. I think it's very useful to actually do the things that you just talked about to actually know your brand because I'm always surprised how many people don't know. They think they know how they come across, but they don't. And a lot of times we may not tell the person how they're coming across, right? But you and I have been part of those conversations that say, oh, if Sue would just only, if Jenny could only, if Jenny just knew this about herself, things like that. And so, finding more about how you're coming across at work is very useful. Would a mentor help with something like that? Getting a mentor?
Yeah, I think it depends. A mentor within the organization that is able to have visibility to you in action and give you some of that feedback. Sometimes people have mentors that are outside their area of the business, which is also great. It provides a different level of, insight and feedback on things, but that can absolutely be helpful.
Mm. So let's say you find out or you know that your workplace brand needs some fixing, or maybe you made a mistake and you feel like it still follows you. So how do you repair your
Yeah.
workplace brand? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, none of us are flawless, and we all have some things that we can work on improving all the time. And moving into a new role or into a new group, you're going to make some missteps. You're going to accidentally, maybe say something negative about somebody else's tool or process that they built that you didn't realize, right? And so the key thing first, right, is identifying that has happened. So I mean, ideally, if you're in an organization that has a culture of feedback, hopefully someone will pull you aside and be like, "Hey, Sue, I don't know if you realize this, but that tool that you said was really terrible. So and so built it, and that now they've got a little bit of their noses out of joint, right?" Again, that comes down to relationships because the only person who's going to do that with us is going to be someone we've built a relationship with that is invested in our success, right? So you have that relationship, people will be more likely to provide you with that feedback. And then in terms of the repair work, it's just trying to be more self-aware, right? So if you have made a misstep, if you have had a project that's gone awry, you know, do what's called an after action review. Hey, let's talk about what happened here. Let's talk about why it happened, and let's talk about how to avoid it happening again. Um, and be clear to take accountability if there are things that you misunderstood or where you misstepped. That's okay. Take that accountability. Once you can take that accountability, you can move on from there.
So kind of like, that project I led, yes, it didn't meet the deadline, and here's what I'm going to do differently moving forward. Or yes, I did put my foot in my mouth, and here's what I learned from that, and here's how I'm gonna, behave differently. Absolutely. So, first, find out what your workplace brand is, and if it feels like it needs a little repair, kind of own up to some of your mistakes and work to fix them. What if there's a misunderstanding that you didn't have any, like, there was no mistake, and there's just sort of this misconception about you? Anything you can do to fix that?
Well, what I'd say is perception is reality.
Mm,
So if you're in an organizational environment and there is a discontinuity between how you're perceived and what you feel is real,
mm,
the key thing to look at there is what might be things you could be saying or doing or not saying or not doing, or people you're not meeting with, that is there's no intentionality behind your point, your part to like slight anyone or leave anyone out or what have you. Maybe you just didn't know, maybe you were new to the group or what have you. But if they have that perception of you, then that's a valid element, and then you do still need to address it. And if you're like, well, I am really a collaborative person, then the question is, okay, I feel like I'm collaborative and I'm trying to be collaborative. What am I not doing or doing that's making you feel like I'm not collaborating with you? Because I want to be collaborating with you.
mm.
So can we talk about that and try to get to that level of behaviors? Well, Jenny, you didn't include me in that meeting with the manager when you presented the idea of X. That didn't feel very collaborative. We had worked on it all the way along, and then you took the ball over the finish line without me.
Mm,
Oh, okay.
mm,
Didn't realize that right?
mhm.
Thank you. I didn't realize I didn't intend to do that, and in the meeting, I did talk about how we work together. Totally see your point, and yes, let's make sure we do those things differently the next time.
Gotcha. So if there is some misconception or if you're somehow misunderstood at work, kind of try to find out the root cause of that and
Right.
work to fix that is what I'm hearing. Um, Let me also take it to the other extreme. What if the advice that people are giving you about how you should show up at work is just not you? It's just, it feels very, not authentic to you. And you feel like you just have to put on a mask so thick that it's exhausting. So what do you do in that case where what they're saying you should be is just so far from who you really are?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, Sue. And what I'd share is maybe kind of two different approaches. One is there could be multiple paths to fixing or abating the issue that exists, and it could be that the person who is trying to coach and advise you is giving you some suggestions or ideas that just don't fit with who you are and how you show up as a person, and it's not how you think or talk or your personality, and that's fair. And so then it can be helpful to work with your manager or your HR partner to say, hey, like, I know this is something I should work on, but I don't know if this is the right way to go about it. It's not feeling right to me. It doesn't fit. And explore those alternative pathways. Um, if you've done that and still it's not feeling like the right thing to do, or you're feeling like you're being asked to be something you're not, then the question is this the right place for me? Right? I mean, it's not every place is the right place for every person. And it could be that particular group or that particular team or that particular function or that particular organization. Um, and it's okay to say, oh, this may not be the right fit or the right match for me. And so let's, maybe I should think about another opportunity.
Yeah. Um, yeah, if you find that it's exhausting to work somewhere because you're pretending to be someone you're not, at some point you may have to ask yourself, is there maybe I have to go somewhere else to be a little bit more my authentic self? Because I think we all agree that, I often say I'm not 100% myself, even with family sometimes. So we can't expect to be at a workplace that allows us to be 100% ourselves all the time. It's really the degrees of which, you have to sort of adapt to the workplace and to your manager and so forth. Um, so, what are some things you can do to stay what advice do you have for people to stay relevant? We talked a little bit about it before, but what advice do you have for people to stay relevant in their industry or in their role or in their organization?
Yeah, yeah. I think the relevance is really fueled by that continuous learning
Yeah.
mindset, right? So that's having that looking around to say, okay, where is my industry going? Like, where has it been? What has changed? Like, who are the thought leaders here? And do they have a book or a podcast or an article or, a website that you want to poke around at on occasion and get some new thoughts and ideas? Are there certain people that you really feel like tend to be au courant that you're like, I got to make sure to have my lunch with Sue
Hmm.
and find out what's going on, in the DEI inclusivity space because I know she's got her finger on the pulse and what we're going to talk about is going to really inform my thinking for where this work is going. um, so again, it's going to come down to like what does that look like for you? Conferences obviously can be a great opportunity, even the virtual conferences if you don't have travel budget or a lot of funds to spend in that area. There's often things that you can sign up for and attend virtually or attend pieces of it virtually. um, and they've got folks who are really thinking, 3, 5, 10 years down the line. And some of these futurists that you hear from, right, that can really just radically shift your frame and make you think, oh, okay, like this is the way I've been doing this for ages, may not even be how this work is approached in 5 years.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So as we wind down our conversation, because we covered quite a bit, we covered making relationships, networking, we talked about knowing your brand, we talked about, always be on the lookout for opportunities to learn, we talked about fixing your workplace brand and so forth. Anything else? What do leaders like to see in people um, that they like to promote? Like any sort of anything that you're like, these are the type of people that people like to promote. Anything like that?
I mean, I think one thing I would suggest to people is being really clear on their own motives and values and priorities and acting in accord with that, so be very aware about what does get you up in the morning, be very aware about what makes you feel passionate and excited and interested, and be able to share that because that kind of authentic excitement comes through and people are drawn to that. And then folks want to give you more and more opportunities to, demonstrate your ability to add value in those spaces.
Mm, absolutely. The last thing I want to ask you about is visibility. So, for example, you may have a fabulous workplace brand. You are up to date on things. You've been reading, you've been watching, you've been networking, all of that. And while all those things should in essence help with visibility, but sometimes you have all those skills, your knowledge, but no one sees you or no one recognizes you. How do you be visible? How do you be seen?
Yeah, yeah. I think there are champions that you can leverage in that visibility as well as some things that you can do as an individual. I think the first person who should be able to assist you in that is your manager. So if there's areas, ideally be talking to your manager about your longer term career interests, create, show them like your career path and some of your aspirations, what you're looking for down the road, brainstorm with them, what this could look like, and talk with them about who are the people I should make sure to be visible to, because they can bring you along to a meeting. They can have you substitute for them at a meeting. Um, there's various, they know some project is starting up that's kind of like a part-time piece of work that they could bring, that you could get tapped to be brought in on. Also, your HR partners. So the HR partners are part of these broader talent networks and discussions. So make sure your HR partner knows what you're interested in and where you want to build skills and capabilities, because they also can, there's internal, discussions that happen informally sometimes. You can say, hey, well, have you talked to so and so? And then in terms of the things that you can do for yourself, it's looking in at the organization and just being aware of, this is part of that enterprise mindset, being aware of what's going on. So be aware if there is a piece of work being done to inform the strategic plan. Like, okay, we need to analyze certain data. We need to talk to certain customers. We need to have this information, and volunteer. Put your hand up. Say, "Hey, I'd love to be part of that if that's an option."
Mhm.
Sometimes it'll be an option, sometimes it won't. But it's like, it's like a friend of mine used to say, her mom say, "If you got a ASK, if you want a GET." So if you don't put it out there, if you don't say, "Hey, I'd love to be involved in that," it's much less likely to happen.
Can a mentor or sponsor also help with visibility?
Absolutely, yes, yes, I should have mentioned that too, Sue. Absolutely, that's when your mentors and sponsors can be incredibly helpful. They know who you are, what you're looking for, what you can do, what you can bring to the table, and often a mentor or a sponsor is maybe not even in the same area of work you are, the same function or business unit, and so they can keep their eye out for opportunities for you as well, and the best sponsor is someone who's gonna put their own social capital on the table and say, "Hey, you know, give Sue this opportunity. I think she would be great here. I'm putting my support behind her. Maybe this is something different than Sue's ever done before, but I think she really can fly here."
Mm, which goes back to building those working relationships, right?
It all
Mm,
comes.
comes full circle. So for those folks who don't work in a place that assigns you mentors or assigns you sponsors, how do you go find a mentor? How do you go find a sponsor?
Yeah, honestly, that can be a little more challenging, particularly for women and from people from underrepresented groups, is what the research tells us. It's harder for people to just reach out and tap someone and ask. Folks are a little bit more reluctant to do so. Which is why it is incumbent on organizations, and often talent and HR organizations, take on the responsibility of helping to create systems and processes to make those connections happen. Um, but there again, you got a ASK if you want a GET. So if you are, impressed by someone in a meeting, or someone's doing the job that you would like to have in 3 to 5 years, you can say, "Hey, can we have a couple of meetings?" You don't necessarily need to ask them to sign up to be your long-term, 5 years down the road sponsor or something. But you can say, "I'd love to just meet with you and learn a little bit more." You're going to want to see if there's a chemistry check with them. They're going to want to feel like there's a chemistry with you. And if it does seem like there is, then you ask for another meeting, then you talk about your career goals and say, "Hey, is it okay if I have another meeting, or we have a couple of meetings over the next year, and talk about this, because I really value your perspective and your input."
Excellent. Okay. Any last tips, advice, nuggets on achieving career success and to be more promotable?
Yeah, I think, Sue, first I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. It's been a wonderful conversation. It's a topic I'm really passionate about. And probably my last piece is just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Give yourself the grace to make mistakes. Understand that you're going to go into an opportunity or reach out to a relationship, and not everything is going to go perfect, and that's okay. Every successful person you see out there, and you see them as a success from your vantage point, they had missteps. They had things that didn't work out and they learned from them and they grew and they moved on. So it's okay. Believe in yourself, give yourself that opportunity to grow and just go for it.
Perfect way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Jeni, for joining us today and sharing your expertise. For those of you who want to reach Jeni, her website and information is down below in the subscription. Today was all about how to gain career success and how to be more promotable. I'm glad you joined us today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you get more videos on jobs and careers.